to the Board Game Live. This is our special guest for today, which is Scene 4, Sean. Sean, introduce yourself to the live audience.
Hi everybody, I'm Sean. I'm a tabletop game enthusiast, designer, author, professional game master, and occasional freelance writer and editor.
These are all the things, and that is what this month is about. Being an indie, and in particular, being an indie for nerd services or creative services for the tabletop industry.
Hey, that's
Sean, what do you find yourself being called to do the most often? Is it events that you schedule yourself? Is it longtime fans of yours calling you to run sessions? What is the day-to-day fabric of you perpetuating the professional GM engine?
Yeah, for sure. The thing that keeps the lights on are long-term, repeat customers who like the way I run games. They like my style, and they want to play campaigns indefinitely. Like that's sort of the core of my clientele. It's like the core of my business are people that like I've played with for long enough, and they're like, all right, you're in, like you run games for us now. And I'm like, great.
Are these nerds with like more time than money? Are these like who can you like say, like, is there a common denominator for your fans, or is your cult all over the place, Sean? Do you indoctrinate them? Are there daggers and like chalices? Like, how is this whole process come about?
The daggers and chalices are all in our imagination. So now I'm like going, we need to hang up some daggers and chalices up here.
I think daggers and chalices is going to be is the channel that you and I do together when we do playthroughs.
That's the next game I'm playing. Is I'm playing daggers and chalices.
It's obviously a game of spying and murder, right?
Where
you're like assassinating people or spying on them, or seducing,
like stabbing and backroom dealing. Yes.
Yeah, set in something hoity because it has the word chalices in it. That seems fantastic.
Yeah, we got to have a wizard in there for sure.
All right, so folks have experienced your game. Is this by recommendation? Like people say you need to try this game, and then and your like clout in the professional GM community is that other people to flock to it? Is it a lot of this channel? Like, how has that perpetuated itself? Like you finding more?
At first, I had the benefit of like I was part of a collective of GMs that were like, we all went in right on advertising ourselves, and we had a really big library. And what happened, a lot of the people in that collective, they moved on to do other things, and they left me with all the clientele. And so basically now I was left with the clients from like, except for the folks who have been like, no, I was here for this person specifically, and if they're leaving,
right,
I'm leaving. But the people who were there because like they wanted a sort of a high quality like RPG experience, they stuck around and they ended up sticking with me. And I've retained a lot of those folks. So that was sort of the seed. That was like the spine of the backbone of my business for a long time. And then I started doing TikTok after that, and now that's, I think, more often what drives people to me. They're like, "Oh, I've seen you on the internet."
All right, let's talk about building that kind of business, and I would refer to that as getting critical mass with your audience. And you happen to be in a great place now. Did your collective move on to one of the other platforms to do this? Do you participate in any of the RPG platforms that offer professional services?
Yes. I still use startplaying.games for all of my sort of drop-in sort of like my games that are open to the public, which I would say, like, if not TikTok, like that's the top of my funnel, right? If you've gone to TikTok and been like, okay, if I wanted to play with you this week, well, how would I do it? And then so like start playing games is the answer for that.
How do you How often do you run things on that platform? Is it like daily, weekly, monthly?
I try to always have at least one weekly game, though sometimes that weekly game is completely full, and it doesn't look like I have anything open. But I try to always have at least one weekly game, one thing that is available for people to drop into. Right now, that's Blades in the Dark, and
Oh,
I have one game running right now, and then the rest of my games are private games. They're games that are not open to like drop-ins. They're games where a group was either pre-existing or formed over the course of playing public games together long enough that they're like, hey, we are a gaming group. We should just like hire, we should basically get a deal and hire you, like a package deal, where all of us go in together, and then like we take that game off the market. So now like it's
how
hits the
long
beginning
are
with the
those?
drop-ins.
Yeah, how long are those story arcs that you're doing with those people? Are some of these indefinite? Are some of these like how many people to a session?
Yeah, so I usually cap it around 6, though I have run for games. I have run games of 7 and 8 for sure. I think the biggest
Online or in person or both?
What's that?
Online or in person or both?
Uh, Both. Yes. My biggest game was definitely in person.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do 8 online. That would be I think that would be tougher to manage. So I cap it at 6. Most of those are online, and I like. But most of my games are 4, usually groups of 4. But like yes, I have groups of 5 or 6, but I would say most of my games are around 4 people. And
I think 4 is the sweet spot myself. I will run 3. I like 3. It's very intimate. I can't do. I like historically. I cannot do 5. I cannot do it.
Yeah,
Things get out of the hand really quickly. Like the encounters, if I'm doing something that's really combat based, the encounters get brutal. Like my expectation is there's a 40% attrition in the party if you go 5 or more.
That's right. Yes. And I'm usually running 3 to 3.5 hours. So how much we can get done in that time does often depend on how many people are in the game. And some of these games I have been running with the same group for like 4 year. Now that hasn't all been necessarily the same campaign. Like maybe that's been like 4 year-long campaigns or something like that.
Is a campaign like the complete life cycle of a world or a character or both? Like and one character like linked all 4 of those campaigns, or did they start over each time?
Oh yeah, so one of my groups actually is a family that they like. There is always a link. It's even if it's just in a character's name to like previous characters that they've played. One of the characters always has the syllable Zid in their name.
That's great.
And we'll sometimes like append things to like ZYD, and so there is this kind of like there's this thread of continuity, but oftentimes we will be playing in vastly different settings. But generally, I feel like things end when in that group things end when it like feels like they're over. Like it's a real fuzzy kind of thing. It's like, wow, this really feels like it's leading up to the climax or the finale of this campaign. And then I got a group that is like, listen, we're here to go from level 1 to level 20 in Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's do it.
It's good to have goals. So, welcome everybody to the live. Today's special guest is Sean from Scene 4. We are talking about the trappings of being a professional GM and sort of what kind of sessions you would expect or what kind of campaign lengths that you would expect from a professional GM. We started with Did you say drop-in RPG, or what did you say?
Like a drop-in game or a public game. These are the games that like basically anybody could go to start-playing.games and sign up for one. Like literally
Start playing games. So, as far as people building their skills, building their mass, and seeing if this is for them, what would you say for somebody? How much experience level as a game master, or comfort level is probably the better answer. Like everybody learns differently. What would the comfort level be for a person would you expect to give them a professional level of experience, Sean? In your opinion, right? We're not gatekeeping anyone. We're not like, but we're like, if you had to suggest somebody, you are ready when.
That's a great question. I would say like I would say you're ready when the thought of running for 5 complete strangers, not only to you but to each other, does not like. You can be nervous about it, but that doesn't scare you. When you're confident that you could, like, maybe within the first half hour of like introductions, engaging everybody, you could be like, yeah, I got a pretty good sense of that. Like, I bet I could. So, like, if you run games at conventions, you can pro GM. If you run con games, you can do it. If you like,
I will give one caveat to that. Yes. Like, if you can run convention games comfortably and people are responding well to what you're doing, then because this is a business, right? Yes. At the end of the day. And to that end, Andy had a question is, what do you do to keep yourself pumped when your hobby is your career?
Totally, yeah. So burnout is a big deal, even just in the hobby as a facilitator. So when I'm running 7-8 games a week, it's very reasonable to want, like, how in God's name do I still like RPGs? And the answer is that I specifically carve out time for games that are not related to my business at all. I am literally running, I think, 3 games right now that like are not paid at all. They're like, these are games that I put together with different groups of friends, and they're all these different games that I'm personally excited about. And like and while I am, most of my games that I run, like, I am generally very excited for them too. Like there are definitely some games where I'm like that's what I'm like literally lying awake thinking about at night. So I make sure to carve out.
And now that is chalices and daggers.
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about chalices and daggers.
Chalices and daggers. Okay, so even in all these situations, it sounds like you're running the games. Do you ever get to play?
No. No. Simply not. But I prefer to run games. Like, I honestly do. Like, in fact, I get a little prickly. I get bristly when people are like, ugh, I'm the forever GM. And I'm like, you don't like it? Stop acting like it's some burdensome chore. Like, it's the best part. When I'm a player, like, I have a bad habit of being like, I would have run that differently. Like, I would have ruled that different. Like,
it's good to know yourself. So we're going back to Socrates. Like, know thyself is an important part of taking on any transition from making something your passion to making it your career. For me to answer that question, I love the act of creation. I don't think I could ever be a professional GM, though I've run like I end up like super involved in one story and one set of characters of crafted kinds of stuff. Like, but I would use any number of chalices or daggers to get into one of your games, Sean, if I could afford it. But like I really want. I look to your channel for a lot of advice, because I feel like the direction that you take players and game mastering is fundamentally a better and healthier way than I myself have had a history with this, right?
I know you love the big heavy prep stuff, right?
I love the world building, right? And I
If I did that
understand.
for every game, I would definitely burn out, right?
Absolutely. But the in between for what you do and what I like to do, and by the way, I think there's, again, is no judgment. I think I need to learn your direction. Is Andy was talking about, do you like solo RPGs? And I have a guess for you, but what I would like you to answer the question. Do you like solo TTRPGs?
I'm very picky with my solo TTRPGs, and there are at least two designers who I'm like, these are the best in the game at solos, and those are Sam Lee, who is Goblin Mixtape on TikTok, and Tim Hutchings, who did Thousand Year Old Vampire, and that is the gold standard for solo RPGs. And recently I read his new game, Thousand Year Old Campfire, and I was like, you've done it again, Tim. So yes, I like solo RPGs. I do think the market's a bit saturated, is a little flooded, so I'm very picky. But I like them. Yes, I think they're an exciting new direction for RPGs.
It is a new frontier, and when you have a new frontier and you have a lot of capable people, and there's a low barriers of entry in comparison to other types of publishing, right?
Yeah.
It is the GM work that you're used to, without the novel work that like finishes, like it's, yeah. There's a lot of generalization in there, but there is, people are making something new, and whenever there's an opportunity for that, a lot of people are going to flock to it. And that is what we're seeing, right? Like Zine Month is chock full with people doing various flavors of RPGs and solo RPGs. And one of the things I would like you to do for next year, just for my benefit, is, hey, these are the top like solo RPGs for this year that I would like take a look at in Zine Month, like an introduction to Zine Month, how Zine Month is vital to the hobbies. Is it you that I quoted that like gay furries are the future of RPGs?
Yes, trans furries are the future of RPGs. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm the first to say it, but I may be the loudest. It's
like seriously, obviously we've seen hacktivists, furries, like there's something that drives like individuals in the community, and maybe they're like the Dread Pirate Roberts, like there's multiple people under the same persona. But I doubt it. Like you wouldn't want to share those suits. I see what happens in those suits, and they're really sweaty. Like you. Absolutely. So, welcome everybody to Live. Today's guest is Sean from Scene 4. We're discussing being a professional GM, and I would like to jump back to the common element for anybody who's interested in the tabletop industry or the gaming industry or the cosplay industry. Like, community is everything, and getting critical mass enough so that you can take your passion and turn it into like a side business is one step, and then from side business to like make the leap to this is all I'm going to do. And we see this again and again with content creators who get an excitement for it, get some skills, get a lot of practice, and then they make the jump to full-time content creators. And so that is also something that is parallel to what you're doing. What would you say is accurate about that analogy, and what would you say is massively different?
Between making, like, for example, content on TikTok and like getting
right, like making the leap from other creative, like, oh, I found that I have an audience. I found I have a voice. That voice gave me an audience. That audience gave me an opportunity. That opportunity I turned to a career.
Yes. So I think that's very similar, and it takes a lot of like conscious building and retention. Like it's super key that like at least in the pro GMing world, right? You have to start. Well, the difference is, I think, how wide a net you can cast, right? Because in general, I feel like on TikTok, it's like scattershot, shotgun blast, spaghetti at a wall, like screaming into the void and seeing what bounces back.
And then the void screams into you, Sean, and then the void screams into you.
I am filled with the very echoes of the void. With like professional GMing, I need to start with a concrete group of 5 real people who wanna play my game. Like, and then from that group of 5 people, you know, I'll run that game. Everybody likes it. Okay, I'm starting a new game. Like, does anybody want to play 2 games with me at one time? Or if like, I'm running 2 games simultaneously. This game is full. This game, like, maybe I have a few of my friends filling seats, and then the other like 3 seats are people who've dropped in. Like, you have to very slowly, one person at a time, like, build and build and build. Like, I would say the big difference is between like building a sort of general audience, like this kind of person is who I'm talking to, versus building a very specific audience. Like these, I need 25 people who want to play games with me consistently, and that will keep the lights on. Like, once, like, I don't need 85,000 followers on TikTok. I need 25 like dedicated, consistent clients.
Right. Or 25 a week, and that ends up, people coming, going with schedules.
Yeah,
is
totally.
like 35 who are on my regulars list,
Right.
and each one of them is 75%
Yes.
attendance rate.
You're gonna see attrition. Like, people are gonna leave for various reasons, right?
This is what I'm going to talk about. Attrition, taking on a hobby turned into a career, turned into a business. When you are thinking about any audience, you have to think about that audience growth and the attrition in that audience. We live in exciting times, and as you know, the real death to any RPG campaign is adult schedules.
Yeah.
It is adult schedules and interests are the ruination of fun. They are.
Yes. Yes.
And you are offering the cure to that. Like, first of all, I'm somebody who's always got an idea and a game. Like, back in the day for when I was doing this on the regular in high school and college, I was the person that everybody went to when the person with the story-driven campaign needed time to recharge. So I was the impromptu GM. So I'm like, hey, do you have an idea for a character? Let's go. Like, boom, 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 boom. And so my progression to story has been in every way, shape, or form a progression towards just loving world building and crafting worlds for people to live in. And I think that's the difference between being a board game publisher and an RPG publisher and being a professional GM. What do you think about that definition?
About
Because you do writing work.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And how do you feel like that is different than your being a professional GM?
Oh, well, I would say I don't see them. I guess I don't see that much separation between them. So, for example, like when a session ends, there's like, or in the middle of it, as a session of an RPG plays out, there's all these elements that are in motion, like things that are actively happening, like characters pursuing their goals, like player characters and their like NPCs and antagonists alike. A session ends, say, and when that session ends, it's like there's like a snapshot. It's like a snapshot of like a sports game. Like, this ball is flying through the air. This like player is diving for the ball. Someone's coming in from the side to tackle them, right? So like we get that snapshot, that momentum. And then the challenge for me is like, okay, now writer brain, I need to figure out like what interesting things could happen with all of these pieces in momentum. And that doesn't feel very different from like writing to me. It's except like RPGs do me the favor of showing me the pieces in play and their vectors and their momentum and their desires. Like when I'm writing, I have to come up with all that stuff from scratch. When I'm running a game, my players are helping me out. They're giving me some of those elements.
I was going to ask this, and you give a great point. As a GM, what would you consider to be some of your S rank skills? Like, I would consider, from what I know of you and talking to you, being taking what you have been given and making gold out of it, I would say is one of your S rank skills. From what I know about you, Sean, do you think that's just too much hyperbole, or do you think that's your mantra? Like, what do you think about that statement? Where is your strengths as a GM?
I do love to get the input from the player. I just made a video about asking questions. To ask the player a question, get their answer, and then be like, oh, yeah, great. Like just. I'm trying to think of a really recent example. I was like, okay, so what's your character? We were doing a session 0 and someone was making like a chef character for basically daggers and chalices for like an intrigue fantasy. and I was
I'm going to call this recap daggers and chalices, by the way, Sean. I'm going to call it daggers and chalices.
For real. Like, and I was like, all right, your character's a chef. What community does this character come from? And the answer was like, yeah, I think I like comes from a really working class, like a sort of a large group of people who are all loosely knit, but are bound by like the fact that they work at basically in this like fantasy medieval feudal service industry. And I was like, okay, great. So do these people believe that the current ruling class that they serve like deserves their position, like right, like mandate of heaven, or are they like, do they see them as like decadent? And taking that answer about like, okay, cool, so you're part of this working class like service industry community. Yeah, how do they feel about the ruling class? And then no matter what the answer to that is, like I'm going to take that and that's going to become a core element, not only of that character story, but of the setting. Like when they interface with with that working class service industry community, someone's going to be like, hey, you're serving a banquet at to the emperor. There's a couple things we need you to do, or like they're gonna want something from you, like based on what their attitude is toward the emperor, for example. And that's the other thing is my S rank skill. Factions for sure is like the
you go by the 5 faction policy, right?
Yes.
I love that so much. I want to attempt this just because I saw this on your channel and I was very, very excited about this. My strength as a GM is your choices matter and the world is real. Like, I don't care if there are like Pegasus Unicorn riding knights. The fact that there's Pegasus Unicorn riding knights means that somebody is getting a gift dropped on them from like this real, like, what are the ramifications for this thing? And because you still have to be human, like if this is a real feature to the world, and especially if players like embrace something, the deeper and weirder down a subculture the players want to go and explore, the more that I'm excited about it. And I generally let players write into the world if they think that backstory is really critical to who they are and so forth and whatnot. And so that is also one of my, like, hey, this world isn't just me. This world is what you are thinking about as well, and so forth and whatnot.
Right. Let's meet a unicorn Pegasus breeder. Let's find out what the rite of initiation is into that order of Pegasus unicorn riding knights, because
right. And like, like, is the squire following you with a net on a Pegasus donkey, right? Like,
The training is going to be very important for you. And
like, what is the net for? You'll realize.
yes, what emerges if we take our world building seriously? It's like
Yeah, so that would be what I get very, very, very excited about. I like history in my worlds playing out in the current era that then indicates what the future is going to be like.
Totally.
Yeah. I love that. That makes me so excited. And but doing that, it takes, I'm getting older, Sean. It takes me a bit of time.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. These are long-term projects. Like the process of like discovering the history of a fantastical world by playing around in it, by actually writing the history. These are long-term projects, and it's so exciting to see, to step back and see the grand arc that is painted by all the little brushstrokes that are sessions and then encounters, and then right down to the individual answers to the question, what do you do?
I love that so much.
Impressionism.
Your 5-faction methodology includes obviously naming the factions and what they're about, but then you let the players interact with the world to flesh it out and then see how their position is moving. And some factions are more prominent in this struggle, and so they'll get more elaboration as that goes along. Now, for my methodology, I love starting at the end. Whatever the end is going to be. So if there's an apocalypse or there is going to be some signature event, I will, like a mystery novel, I will breadcrumb the necessary doors that the players might have to find to discover what that is. And normally, in my factional policy, the factions know more about the potential end than the characters, and so the characters end up siding in it with these groups that all are invested in whether or not the world will end.
Sure. I mean, I love an apocalypse as much as the next guy, for sure.
Yeah, it could have happened just last week, or it could be coming up in the future. Just have it looming somewhere.
And I feel like I'm more likely than your average GM to pull the trigger on an apocalypse.
I love that.
If it doesn't get stopped, I will if I foreshadowed this apocalypse for 2 years and you don't stop it, you had your chance. Boom! We're playing in a post-apocalypse now.
Yeah, no, seriously, the ramifications for your choices are such a big deal. Obviously, I also fuse in for my very social conscious elements for characters. If you're going to be in any kind of quasi-medieval world, how horrible is the patriarchy to LGBTQIA women who might be druids? And the answer historically has been very poor. Well, what if those women are empowered to not need anyone and be able to enact their revenge?
Yeah.
So, and thus, it's clear, you can find your way into an apocalypse by being the privileged class in a story, and then realize as the story slips, your people have been the problem the entire time.
It's happened before. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I love it so much. Everybody, welcome to the live. I'm having a hoot. I'm sorry if I've missed questions. I love talking GM stuff with Sean from Scene 4, and we're talking about the nuts and bolts of campaigns and how that leads to the opportunity to be a professional game master. Now, earlier in the discussion, we discussed running games at conventions and con games. I think this is a fantastic way for you to evaluate whether or not you are ready and whether or not you can build an audience. because a convention will bring you an audience, and at certain conventions, you can adjust the price tag for your event so that you can see if people of a certain like commitment are interested in that thing. Like, I use the word commitment very seriously. Like, I don't think RPGs should be ever gatekept by like your means, but for events, specifically at Gen Con, I very much do not think anybody should put an event that they want to be taken seriously at the minimum cost. People just will not show up.
They won't show up, yeah. Yeah.
Value your time. How do you suggest for people who are interested in professional game mastering or RPG writing or writing in general, evaluate or test their time or enumerate their time?
Yeah, I think you should definitely consider like what are you making hourly to do this, and is it worth it? Like, and you may need to build yourself. You might need to start at a pretty low rate just to see if you can do it at all, right? But you should generally, like, if you're growing, if you're not stagnating, you should consider raising your prices. But in general,
cost of living goes up, and we live in exciting times. And you can ask your regulars, is this too much of a barrier? Like, I need this so that I can eat. Like, I need this so I can get bifocals. Like, I'm in a serious situation. So Jordan Peacock was talking about setting price and maintaining a price or allowing people to opt in. Do you have like an introductory price for a like try my campaign or GMing like occasionally, or how do you do? What's your price model for either writing RPG stuff as a ghostwriter? I don't know if you do that, or helping out other people. Like, what is your price model? Because some people do by word, by hour, by page, by, how do you price out like the various things that you do in and around creative RPGs?
For word stuff, I am currently on a by the word situation, though I have considered moving to an hourly thing, but like, I don't know, I work kind of fast, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm much more inclined to be like, this is the price. If I do it fast, it's because I'm good. I should be paid less because I'm fast.
Set price for what it is, and understanding the this is what it is and this is what it costs is really good. Jordan is talking about the structure that Jordan does for making a session happen. Understanding this is what I am worth, this is how much prep time. This is also, I think people should consider downtime that you need for before and after a session. Like, yes. GMing is a high performance activity. It's somewhere between like writing a mystery and improv comedy. It's somewhere between there.
Yeah, I add an hour of time to all of my sessions to account for like prep, spin up, and cool down. Like, so a 3-hour session, that's 4 hours, at least that's 4 hours of work. And of course, there's lots of hours of idle daydreaming where I'm scheming about like, where I'm like, I do this all the time. I'm like lying awake, like in my bed at night being like, oh, you know what that fire demon should do?
Get on a Pegasus unicorn and get himself a squire.
That Pegasus, they left their Pegasus unicorn at the stable unguarded.
With their squire. Oh, yes, no.
With the squire who they mistreated recently. Ooh.
Ew.
That's one of my ambitions now.
That's one of my favorite GMing tropes, and I know I should not do this to people, but the anxiety what people do with mounts or hideouts or other things, like how they take care of their possessions, ends up being a large pull for players, right? And this is one of those things you should always ask your players. Are you interested in this being a critical element for the campaign at large, or do you want to move on to this other thing? And this is right. Like, because we can get down to people, the Pegasus unicorn stealing market and how valuable.
Call me. The Pegasus unicorn black market session right there. The whole arc.
It is like, oh my gosh, like you start by like, taking care of a little one, and what ends up happening with that little one? Oh no, I always thought it dreamed to be like ridden by a knight. Did you just sell your life companion into slavery? Oh no, have I been the problem the entire time? Like, the unicorn Pegasus mill?
Right. Do we need to bust this? Has this order of knights been exploiting pegacorns?
As you can also see, that's probably a problem with me as a game master, is I will always yes and almost any idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, whenever my, so a lot of I'm definitely used to in my line of work, right? People sitting down at my table and expecting to be sort of like to be served a story, like to kind of. To be a little more passive, which does happen, but the instant my players show, they lean forward, they ask a question, they show engagement, they're like, oh, you're into the pegacorns. Okay, let's go.
That sounds...
Yeah.
Go on. Tell me more.
Yes, right. It's like, all right, cool. We're taking this element that I introduced as a sort of fun side thing. It's we're seeing it in the spotlight because the player's eyes, the player's attention is the spotlight in RPGs. What they focus on, the choices they make, what they're doing, that is the story. So if they see the Pegasus unicorn in the stall and everyone is like, whoa, forget what the mayor was paying us to do, everyone's crowded around this, then that's the mayor is the B plot now, or C, or maybe we forget about that job entirely. Like maybe the game is all about this. Maybe we just found what our campaign is about, right? Like
if people are excited about it, and that makes their character core struggle, where your world and my world building unite is, then I weave in these character goals to because if you're gonna get to some place in the horizon, everything converges at the same point in the horizon, and that is how I work that back.
That's a great
so folks who are not familiar, this is the Board Game Live. I'm Seppy. Our special guest today is Sean. As you can see, we split the screen. Do you get my comments, or you only get your comments?
I think it's the same comments, right? All the comments you've been reading, I've seen as well.
All right, so for folks who don't know, this has been Indie Month, and Sean has been a fantastic final guest as we talk about independent creative services in and around gaming, as gaming raises as an industry. And so Sean, as a professional GM and writer, we're talking about how does that become a business, and how do you make that business successful? One of the things that we're talking about is, okay, how do you know if you're ready? How do you know if your business model is right? How do you plan for burnout? And how do you tag your hours as working, not working?
Yeah.
So when do you draw the line for working, not working, Sean?
Oh.
And what is an indicator for you?
Well, part of the magic of working in RPGs, like I said, that idle daydreaming, I feel like I have an active subroutine in the back of my mind that's always cooking, so that when I sit down, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about this for a week, actually. So there is a little bit about RPGs and the stories and the narratives that does kind of colonize my brain a little bit. It makes it that I can see where people come from when it's now it's difficult to separate my hobby from my job. But I definitely, like I said, I pick those games. I create games that have nothing to do with my paid games that like I'm personally and intellectually curious about exploring, and like, and they don't feel like it's magic how when you start getting paid for something, it starts feeling like work. And then if I do literally the same thing, like out of like passion, out of for no money, it does not feel like work anymore. So I
All right, let's talk about that for a second. We often talk about the magic circle, the state in which a person has fun. And one of the main differences between what you're citing is choice. A person cannot have fun if they don't feel agency and they have not made the choice to step in the magic circle. And so one of the things that I recommend for people who want to be professional creatives is take a moment to do two things. Number one, to reassert that this is a choice, right? You have to work, right? Don't confuse the fact that you have to work to the fact that you chose this to be work. And as soon as those two things blur, your fun level will go.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, before you charge up that next hill, because people who are entrepreneurial or setting themselves out to run their own business often do this, please take a moment to celebrate the hill that you've just finished climbing. I don't care if it's 2 minutes. I don't care if it's 3 minutes. Like, before you charge that next hill, just take a moment to look around and go, this is a nice hill that I got the top of. Look at this thing that I did. Do you think your structure, your clients, and the closing of a campaign is that moment for you? Or do you feel like it's when they sign up for the next thing that is the moment for you?
Yeah, I think it's when a new campaign is on the horizon for me, when I'm putting something together and I'm starting it up, and I'd say it's the moment when the game fits. Like the last seat, either like if it's a pre-existing group and they're like and they're like, okay, here's what we want to play, here's how long we're planning to play it, like I can't wait to get started. I'm like, me neither. And then for a public drop-in game, it's like when I open it up, like I feel like I am opening my heart to the world. I'm like, anything could happen. Like, you know, the 2 weeks could go, the 2 week like waiting period could go by and no one could have signed up for my game. Or, as frequently happens, like that game fills up. And everybody signed on. I'm like, oh, people want what I have. People want to play with me, and the seat fills, and I'm like, all right, we got there. The rest is play. Like I love that thing, like making an intentional choice to step into the game, to remind yourself that like I chose to play games for a living. Like
I could choose to unchoose it. And this is my life. This is for successful creatives. This is a valuable skill. And I think you should treat it like a skill. I am practicing this thing and recognizing what success feels like for you, right? We live in an age where 2 trillion of the people on the planet can interact with each other and see what the highest level of performance is. Yeah. Well, understanding what the highest level of performance is and understanding where you are both good things fundamentally. What gets the problem is when you think of yourself here, not being here is a failure. And that will kill your creative buzz as a content creator, as a board game publisher, as a professional GM. But understanding that you have a choice to work up to this place, or better yet, bring that place over here. You know, this is where everybody thinks it. What if it's actually way over here?
That's how I feel. That is legitimately how I feel. I feel like, especially in the in the RPG space, there's this bar that's set by things like actual play, where it's like, oh, that's what RPGs should look like. And I'm like, RPGs are necessarily experiential actually, and watching them will never be the same as actually being at the table. And my goal is not to replicate. Like I would never say like this is going to be like a game on Dimension 20 or Critical Role. What I would say is like you're gonna feel like you were the hero of the story. Like you're gonna feel like a protagonist. We're not gonna not gonna make a product for someone else's consumption, nor for ours. We're gonna have an experience that was completely unique to us. This will be a shared secret that basically only we understand.
All right, so I tell my players, because I do an enormous amount of prep, and my players, my group is 3 to 4 or whatever for the long-term campaign. And I make it very clear that this is a love letter to our friendship. Like nothing could be more collaboratively intimate than this like caretake universe and storyline in and around the struggles that your character feels. And that is very important for my players to get on board with my game, because a lot of awful things happen. Like RPGs could be like art, and not all art is pretty. And not all art makes you feel good. Yeah. Some art makes you feel cathartic through terrible revelation.
Right. It's why I struggle so much with the word fun, is because so many people are like, fun is when you're smiling and happy. And I'm like, no, fun is when you get chaliced and daggered. Fun is when you realize your chalice has been poisoned and someone put a dagger in your back, actually.
This is very important in the session 0. If folks don't know, a session 0 is when you establish like not only what your characters are and how they interweave with each other, but what kind of fun you are interested in having in this campaign setting with this rule set. And you do not play Mork Borg with this idea that you are going to all survive.
Yeah. Yes.
You do not play Paranoia with this idea that you are in control of the story and you are only in control of your inner monologue as anyone living in a machine-driven dystopia, right? Like you are interested in telling the narrative of this particular society and experiencing it at that like love letter like level that we were talking about. The nothing can replace this experience. Yeah, no. So one of the things that ends up coming up, like I have to ask myself, like, what do I bring to the table as a professional publisher of board games and my games? And what comes up again where I rank top of the class is the game demo. And this is not something that I happened upon. This is something that started with me doing, decades of game mastering and applying it to a board game demo. And one of the skills that you pick up is what level of excitement are people giving to either the fluff or the mechanic or the action in it or the interplay with each other. And all of those things are skills that I think as a person who's neurodivergent, I had to learn from running games, right? I'm a dyslexic and I have other kinds of things going on. I'm like the exact whatever.
I think even neurotypical people, like it's a skill to learn, to watch what are people attending to? Like what are they really giving their attention to? What are they giving their their heart and their passion to? It's this kind of experimental thing, like sort of watching their reaction and watching what they listen to and where they tune out and what they gravitate toward.
And this is back to your earlier point. If you can run a game for 5 strangers and they have a good time, that means that you've picked up on these skills that you can read somebody you don't have a lifelong friendship with to be able to understand what they're getting at and what their concerns are. Like they're trying to communicate an idea, and you as the universe or the interface for the universe has to be able to pick up what people are trying to tell you, no matter what their communication style is. And that is something that is universal to all tabletop games, and skills that people can work on that will also help them outside of tabletop games.
For sure. For sure. It's like, yes, it's absolutely like, it's a listening. Listening is probably the most important skill that you can learn in RPGs and in improv. It's probably the best tool that an improv class can give you in terms of RPGs and in life. It's listening and it's empathy. It's like, it's actually hearing the things that people are saying to you, and not just the words that they're saying, but what they actually mean by them. Like is someone,
and they're doing it in character, so that adds another layer of stuff. So in that area, I would also say, and I think this is where you and I are more close, but slightly different. I negotiate with my players, right? They want a thing, then I let them know what the stakes are, what it is. And if they're going to do something that's wildly unpopular in the world with terrible ramifications, there's never a gotcha moment with me. Like, especially if it's high stakes. I'm like, and they feel fully empowered that they're making this choice. They know what's on the line and what will happen. I also usually end up using mechanics so that dice rolls are mitigated by other stakes in the game, so that they can be mitigated in this way. Like, okay, this critical fail happened. Your character doesn't just die. Instead, this other important story element now has been added to the entire thing. And so that kind of like, I think I saw one of your thing. Do you want your character to die? Do you think it's appropriate? Like, that's one of the negotiations that we are talking about that I think is a critical GMing skill that people should examine if they want to take their GMing to the next level.
Totally. I agree completely. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Sometimes I say wish is a first level spell because that's the whole thing. You tell me what you want.
I'm ripping you off so bad, John. That is amazing.
That's the core. That wish is a first level spell. Everybody can do it. Maybe I should say wish is a cantrip, but like everybody can do it. You can say, this is how I want to change the world. I'm like, all right, here's what it's going to cost. Like, I'm not gonna screw you like a genie. I'm not gonna wait until after you cast the wish. I'm gonna tell you, like, listen, here's the consequences of that, or here's what the cost is, or like, here's how long that's gonna take you to do, and then you get to decide, are you gonna pull the trigger or not? There's another great phrase from, I think it's from Apocalypse World, which is show them the barrel of the gun. Like, you can't just ambush them. You can't just shoot them. You have to show them the barrel of the gun. And then it's like, okay, just so you know, there's a gun to your head right now. Or like I'll tell you exactly how much TNT is wired up to this detonator. Do you want to push it? You do. Okay. All right. Well, don't say I didn't warn you.
That is amazing. All right. We are in the last 7. Sean, you are like catnip for me. I can talk indefinitely. You and I can yes and through this conversation forever. You have been a spectacular guest. So we're in the last 10 minutes of the wrap up. What would be your advice for people who are interested in taking their GM-ship to the next level, which would be like semi-professional or a hobbyist business? What do you think is the key elements, either from this discussion or things that we haven't mentioned?
I'm gonna do nitty gritty nuts and bolts here. I'm gonna say your impulse is gonna be to do one shots. You should not. You should do short campaigns. Because retention is that important. Like, you should do campaigns of 4 to 8 sessions, and you should get you should see, like, can I sustain a group of 4 to 5 people for 4 to 8 sessions? And then, like, once you've done that once, you can be like, all right, I'm starting a new one. See how many people jump onto your new one. Or if that went really well, I don't don't expect this, but if that first shot goes really well, you can be like, cool, I think I'd like to start a season 2. Like, let's do a season 2. And then build from there. Like, start with short campaigns. If you can keep one short campaign going, see if now it's like juggling. See if you can add another ball, right? Can you keep 2 going at the same time? And then eventually you'll be like, I feel like I can do 3. And then at this point, like, you may see that, like, the first one you started is about to end. Right? And like, people are going to drop off. You're going to lose people. So like, it's a very slow climb, but I would say like, start these sort of staggered short campaigns. Start one, like finish one, start a second. If that's working, start a third in the middle of that one. Keep them staggered. Like, make sure you're doing something different, and don't forget to do the things in your game that you love, like, because your passion will shine through, and the stuff that you offer that people will get from no other game, no one else's game, is going to be the stuff that you're really excited about. Because people after your game would be like, I've never seen a GM like put that kind of thing in their game before. Like, you'll be shocked at what at the kind of things that like are unique to you, or that people will like will blow people's minds. Things that are obvious to you, other people will be like, that will be their first time experiencing something like that. So yes, don't start with one shots. Start with short campaigns. Follow your own passion and build slow. It's a long road.
That is great. This hooks into next month's theme. Next month's theme is, we're doing product design month here on the Board Game Live. And what Sean is talking about is also very much product testing. Understanding that you need to keep 5 different independent groups happy all the time to make this jump to being a professional GM is part of understanding what your nerd service has to look like for you to be independent. And how many of these things that you need to spin up to get a feel for, is this the life for me?
Yeah.
Simultaneously, what you have to offer is closer than you think. Being your genuine self is something that translates here for this platform. It translates in tabletop industry in general. I have been rewarded so much for being who I actually am in this community, more than any other community that I participated in, because this is a great place to find your people. More importantly, if you're a person of color or diversity, also understand that though you might not see other people like you, there are people behind you saying, that guy looks like me.
Uh-huh.
You might not see them, but they are traveling behind you, and you have a lot to say with just being your genuine self. That is fantastic, Sean. You have delivered yet again as an amazing guest. This has been super fun for me. I love your content. Where can people find you, and where can people, what can people look forward from you coming up?
Yes, you can find me right here on TikTok under the username Scene4. I'm also on Twitter, Scene4, and Instagram at Scene4RPG, and YouTube Shorts at Scene4. Coming up from me, I wrote a game called Wizard Duel that I think I wrote it. Devin, who runs StartPlaying.games, came up with the idea. I wrote the text for it, and my friend Ryan did the layout. That's gonna come out pretty soon. And if you want to talk more RPGs and GM stuff, I just put up on StartPlaying.games free Sunday afternoon GM workshops that I'm doing for at least the next 4 weeks. I ran these a while back, and I love them so much. They're like my way of sort of giving back to my community. So if you like my stuff and you want to talk GM, you want to sit in a workshop with like 6 other game masters and like workshop the thing you're working on, or like the campaign, or like a piece of homebrew or whatever, anything like that. Like I try to make sure everybody gets 15-20 minutes on the floor. Sign up for those. They're happening Sunday afternoons for the next 4 weeks through September.
That is incredible, Sean. And I'm glad when I get so excited when a guest has something to pitch at the end of it. That is real value add for people who did not realize. I would make an argument that even if you could be a fly on the wall for that discussion, if you write board games or anything with any level of world building, or you're going to be running demonstrations of any type, there's something that you could be learning from that session. And for like understanding the underpinnings of improv and knowing when somebody is communicating something to you and when they're giving you a prompt.
Well, one of the reasons I do it is because I learn something from every one of those workshops. Like someone comes on and like someone will like have this insight in the middle of the workshop and like, I don't know if this is any help. And I'm like, holy shit, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard.
There is revelations. I find that being the case when I interact with your content. I slap myself on the forehead so hard that it leaves a mark. I'm like, that is what I should be doing. It's been like 50 years. I should have been doing this like 45 years ago. Why is this seems so simple? This is so obvious. But that's fantastic. For Fight in a Box, there's a lot of updates in and around Conquest Princess. We have some fantastic news. Conquest Princess did leave the factory. We have a tentative retail release date of November 8th. That's coming up. For us, we were on the docket to go on to Game Hole. Sean, are you going to go to Game Hole in Madison?
I cannot make it this year, unfortunately, even though it's not that far.
I think we should figure out a way that you and I go and do something. It's hysterical. Like things had happened, and our convention manager ended up to take a step away from Fight in a Box, and so that got put in the mix. So that's unfortunate for us. So there's a 50% chance that you can see us there at the end of October. We have regular playtests for our games coming up on our Discord, of course, but you can look for us every Wednesday on the Board Game Live. Next week is Product Design Month. Next week's guest is Terrible Games. That should be super fun. Then we have Druid City Games, which is Tidal Blade and Wonderland Wars. Those are big titles. Then we have Dodeca Donuts. Have you seen the Dodeca Donuts, Sean?
No.
All right, this is an example of RPG accessories are its own industry at this point. He handcrafts, hand paints, hand woodworks donuts that open up to dice cases.
Donuts, you say?
They're great. They're wood donuts, right? But they look like donuts. You're like, it's fantastic. Andy's going to be our guest.
Someone let me eat the dice.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Somebody, like an entire thing. And so those are the next 3 weeks. I think I need a guest for the 4th week for Product Design Month in September. So you can check that out. All right. And of course, if you like board game design and you're doing it on a daily basis and you need somebody to give you reminders of what things you should be thinking about, my 15-second board game design tip of the day is going to be the second least useless thing that you encounter daily. I highly recommend it. That's what highly recommendation looks like. All right, Sean, any closing thoughts and say goodbye?
Oh, no, that's it. It's been wonderful coming on with you. I always love talking to you, Seppy. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So for everybody who sounded in and everybody who took time to spend time with us on the Wednesday Board Game Live, as always, stay safe and have fun, and see you next week. Bye, everybody.